You talk about, right, people realizing maybe at some companies they might not be the happiest, but this is still kind of an unshaky time for people in the financial world, right? Like some interest rates are up here, things are more expensive this area, right? I guess, are people still applying and going for new jobs? Or are they hunkering down in their current ones because they think the economy right now, I can't leave this gig?
Yeah. It's real. I would have assumed that people are hunkering down, sort of uncertain economic times, but I'll be honest with you. I've had more people, individual job seekers, reaching out to me the last 2 months than I have at any point over the last 3 years. And it's executives, it's recent college graduates, and it's just people looking for a career change. I think people are still reprioritizing and resetting what they want to do for their career, what they like and what they don't like. And they're looking to see what's out there, but they recognize that I need to invest in myself, get with a career coach, because their goal isn't to get a job. It's to get a great fitting job. And that should be the goal of everybody, to get a great fitting job. And it goes back to developing those job search skills.
Hey friends. It's the Ryan Leckey Show. To the Ryan Leckey Show. Hey, what is going on, friends? Look, so excited to bring you this edition of the Ryan Leckey Show. All right, I'm just going to get right to it. If you hate your job, maybe you love your job, you're looking for a promotion, maybe you're going on an interview sometime in the near future, and you're a little nervous, how do you rock it? Well, today, some of the best free advice you're going to get from the one and only, the rock star, the career matchmaker who's based in Pennsylvania, Bill Leonard of Leonard Workforce Solutions. How's it going?
It's going great, Ryan. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. I know you're going to knock this out of the park. I mean, I've known you for a while. I've turned to you for career advice, resume help, and then some. But you are so dialed in to the job market. You help companies recruit great candidates, but I want to get right to it. The job economy, it's summer 2023 while we're recording this podcast. How does the job front look right now? Give me the tea, Bill.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, we see these headlines about layoffs, especially at large companies and especially in the tech sector. And I think people are a little freaked out about what's going on in the economy. But I'm here to tell you that all of the companies I deal with, my current clients, past clients, they're all hiring. Companies are still hiring.
Is it all remote? There's this misconception now that I know there's a lot more remote gigs than we ever saw before, but is it all remote? Like, what do companies want these days?
It's not all remote. I know that LinkedIn had a statistic a few months ago that 14% of all jobs were remote, but they were attracting 51% of applicants. So there's way more people who want to work remote than there are remote opportunities. But it's in person, it's remote, it's everywhere, it's every industry. Certain occupations, there's just not enough workers, like accountants and engineers and maintenance techs. The nonprofit industry needs people really bad. Healthcare, education, the skilled trades, manufacturing, logistics. It just goes on and on and on. Companies cannot find enough people, so there's tons of jobs out there.
And why not, though? Are they not paying enough? Because you still hear people always buzzing, especially after the pandemic. Nobody wants to work anymore.
It is definitely true that there are some companies whose salaries and wages have not kept up with the market. So that is a problem. I just don't think that there's enough people to do the jobs. I just think there are so many businesses, so many jobs, so much demand for goods and services. There's just not enough people. And let's not forget, during the pandemic, a lot of people, unfortunately passed away. A lot of people dropped out of the job market. A lot of people don't want to go and work in person. So the labor pool is smaller than it was before the pandemic. So there's actually less people for the jobs that we currently have.
Wow. And we have a lot to unpack because if people hear that and they're like, there's jobs everywhere, blah, 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 but my resume is terrible, or I'm really bad at interviewing, or I hate this stuff. Like, we're going to get to that and a lot of your great tips. But with Leonard Workforce Solutions, what the heck do you do?
Absolutely. So it's a firm that does two main things. Number one, I provide recruiting services for companies who need help finding great candidates. And on the other side is career development services for individuals and job seekers. And that could be LinkedIn consulting, it could be resume writing, mock interviews, and just general career coaching. So I'm working with businesses who need candidates, and I'm working with candidates who need jobs, and that's why they come to me.
And when you talked about career mentoring, Oh my gosh, I'll be a testimonial for you. I know when I was looking to say, hey, after 21 years working in television news, I want to go out and I want to go start my own company. And I'm like, but I think this is a terrible idea because I don't know if I'll do it. I'm going to walk away from a steady paycheck and health insurance and stuff. And man, did you and I have a lot of conversations, and the way you were able to help me look at it from 30,000 feet, I mean, I'll be forever grateful to that, because I never would have left to go shoot my shot without people like you in my corner, but also giving me like the sound and real advice to help me navigate it and point me in the right direction to say, like, this is how you can do this, right? And really to help me see, to play the tape forward. If I stay in the current gig, this is what my future looks like.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have been the end of the world, but also to say, well, what could it be if I take this leap? So thanks for that, I have to tell you.
I think that most people, they don't have that objective person, that coach, that mentor that they could turn to and say, hey, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. What are the options out there? And you were brave enough to turn to me and others and say, I need to change, but what could I do? And what are the pitfalls? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And you got to be brave enough to look for those people in your life and say, hey, I need to talk to you.
And you know what's amazing? People have no problem. They'll hire a personal trainer at a gym, right?
Exactly.
But sometimes people don't think, I should hire a career coach. Like if your career's a mess and you're still trying to figure out like, hey, who do I want to be when I grow up?
Yep.
Right? That's where it comes into play.
Because where do people teach you job search skills? Where do they teach you career development skills? You don't learn those things. You just stumble into an internship, into a job, but you're not developing the skills that you could utilize in a structured way to develop your career and get that job that you want.
I follow, obviously, you on LinkedIn, and I check out your Instagram and everything, right? And you always talk a lot about being in a relationship, right? With your career.
That's right.
What do you mean by that? Because everybody's like, my career is not my life. So what do you mean when you say your career, you're kind of in a relationship with it?
Yeah, so I think when most people think about work, they think about job duties and responsibilities. And what I would say to them is your work, you're in a relationship. You're in a relationship with your leader. You're in a relationship with your teammates. You're in a relationship with your company. And relationships are really going to determine whether you're happy and successful on the job. So rather than looking for a job title you think you'd be a good fit for, you also need to say to yourself, who do I want to be in a relationship with? Because you can get that great job and you think that's the best position you could be in. But if you can't get along with your leader, if you can't get along with your teammates, you're going to be miserable. And 6 months later, you're going to be looking for a new job. Because just because you like doing the work, the people around you that you interact with, they're going to determine whether you're happy and successful. So work is relationship-based. You're in a relationship, so choose who you want to be in a relationship with.
But you talk about, right, people realizing maybe at some companies they might not be the happiest, but this is still kind of an unshaky time for people in the financial world, right? Like some interest rates are up here, things are more expensive this area, right? I guess, are people still applying and going for new jobs? Or are they hunkering down in their current ones because they think the economy right now, I can't leave this gig?
Yeah. It's real. I would have assumed that people are hunkering down, sort of uncertain economic times, but I'll be honest with you, I've had more people, individual job seekers, reaching out to me the last 2 months than I have at any point over the last 3 years. And it's executives, it's recent college graduates, and it's just people looking for a career change. I think people are still reprioritizing and resetting what they want to do for their career, what they like and what they don't like. And they're looking to see what's out there, but they recognize that I need to invest in myself, get with a career coach, because their goal isn't to get a job. It's to get a great fitting job. And that should be the goal of everybody, to get a great fitting job. And it goes back to developing those job search skills.
And let's talk with job seekers, right? When they partner with you, a career coach, right? We talked about people team up with a nutrition coach to lose weight. You're helping people land the job that's going to really be a great relationship for them.
That's right.
So what are the big picture things you try to work with people in that category?
I have 3 big tips that I offer job seekers when I start working with them. Number 1 is mindset. Number 2 is career advisory board. And number 3 is self-assessment and reflection. So I want to make sure that they're in the right frame of mind going into a job search. I want to make sure that they have a career advisory board, a network that is going to support them every step of the way. And then finally, I want to make sure that they're assessing themselves and reflecting so they can figure out what are my unique talents, what are my interests, what are my goals, what are my values. Because when you know what your goals are, what your values, what your interests are, when you have a network to support you and your mindset's in the right place, the job search becomes so much easier.
And I think that's all great if you know, like, okay, I'm ready to leave, I'm ready to move on, right? But what if you're in a work environment and you are unhappy? Like, what's the self-inventory somebody needs to do to realize, okay, it's definitely time to change and move on?
Yeah, I think there's some questions people could ask themselves to figure out, hey, do I want to stay or do I want to go? You know, number one, I would say ask yourself, would I enthusiastically renew my employment vows? At some point in the past, you interviewed and you accepted a job offer. If you had to re-interview, would you? If you had to accept a job offer again for your current job, would you do that? You know, another question people could ask me is, would I recommend my job and employer to the people I care about the most?
Ooh, that's big.
Right?
Because I know there's people like, no, I would tell you not to work here.
Yeah. And then when
I hope my team would say, go work at Ryan Leckey Media. But
And you know, when you're out with your friends, when you're with your family, how do you speak about your job and employer? Is it in positive terms or negative terms? Another question is, where am I more likely to grow? My 7th year with my current company or my 1st year with a new company? And you know, another question is, am I too comfortable at work? Because people that are too comfortable, that they don't have any pressure on them, they sort of start coasting. They take it easy. They don't challenge themselves. And I think that could be really bad for your career when you're not putting yourself in positions where you're growing.
well, let's talk about that. So growth in a company, right?
Yeah.
Promotion. So say you're not like completely miserable at a job, but you're like, I'm not growing. I'm coasting. I'm comfortable. What are your pro tips to go about getting the promotion and exploring that and getting on the right radar with the right people?
Yeah, I would say number one, you need to know what your goals are, and you need to convey that to your leader or supervisor or manager. That could be during formal, reviews. That could be during informal one-on-one check-ins, but let them know what you want to do in your career. And, frankly, career development should be a goal of your company, right? So that's number one. Number two, I would say, as far as specific language you could use with your employer, you could say something to the effect of, I'd love to utilize my skills and experience and have an even bigger impact on our company. Is there another internal role that aligns with my career goals where I can do that? And then wait to see what they say. And maybe right now isn't the time for you and they give you that feedback. But putting it out there, letting them know, I'm ready to take on a bigger challenge, good things could happen.
Okay. The $1 million question. I know we're talking about promotions, going out to shoot your shot, changing jobs. It all comes back to an interview, right? So what are Bill Leonard's top interview tips? What do we need to know about interviewing?
I'm going to say something that's contrarian, maybe even a little controversial as far as interviewing goes. The goal of the interview is not to get the job. The goal is to learn. It's to learn about the job. It's to learn about your future leader. It's to learn about your future teammates. It's to learn about the culture. You can't know that you want a job if you haven't met your future leader, your future teammates, have taken a tour of your workspace. You can't know that. So really, to reduce the pressure on yourself, don't go into it saying, I've got to get this job. I want this job so bad. The goal of the interview is to go in and say, I'm here to learn about the job, about my future leader, about my future teammates, culture, and workspace to determine if I want this job.
That's huge. And the way you said it, less pressure then.
Absolutely.
When you're going into it.
Absolutely. There are some other strategies and tactics you could use to make the interview better. It's so important to engage in a mock interview. You could sit down with a family member, a friend, or an HR professional and have them ask you likely interview questions. You should do that several times before an interview because it helps prepare you to give concise answers.
So those are some of the do's.
Absolutely.
What are some of the big don'ts that people have done in interviews and they'll come back and be like, hey, Bill, here's how my interview went and I did. Well, I'm sure because if they worked with you, you went through this already.
Yeah.
The mistakes you've seen on interviews.
Well, not arriving early, right? If you're arriving just on time or late, that's a no-no. not taking notes, you want to show that you're interested in what's being said. You should be taking notes. If you're just sitting there and not taking notes, I think that's bad. One of the biggest no-nos is not asking questions at the end of an interview, because it shows you're not interested. Are you not curious at all? Do you not have any questions that you want answered? Interrupting the interviewer is also bad. And one of the key things too that some people struggle with is talking too much and too long.
They get nervous too.
They get nervous and they ramble on and on and on, and it exhausts the interviewer. Your answers to questions should generally be 2 minutes or less. So those are some of the major mistakes people make.
Let's talk about LinkedIn. You're such a guru at LinkedIn. I've had you kind of give my page an audit, and I know you've worked with a number of other people. How important is LinkedIn these days with networking, with connecting?
It's super important to your career. It's where recruiters are looking for their next great hire. LinkedIn is the world's largest professional networking site. So you can network with people. You could support your network. You could search for jobs. Most importantly on LinkedIn, you could produce and put out content that is going to get you seen by your network and potential companies that you want to work for. So you could produce videos, you can write articles, you could put out posts about topics that you're interested in and you have some expertise in, and that's how you're going to get recruited and found out about by your target companies.
But I think the big thing, you even taught me, right? The stuff you put on Instagram and Facebook, right? Don't be putting that on LinkedIn. Yeah. So what are the big don'ts when it comes to posting on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I know there's a little bit of disagreement with this. I mean, I think it's okay to put some personal stuff on LinkedIn, but you should try and keep it as professional as possible, right? Because it is a professional networking site. So you don't want to have too many, personal videos or photos on there. It should be more about your career, your job, things you're doing in your community. Now, again, that's not to say that you can't tell a larger story on LinkedIn, because you certainly can, but try and keep it as professional as possible. The things you're putting out on Facebook or Twitter generally shouldn't be on LinkedIn.
Now, because I follow you on LinkedIn and social, I've heard you say before, don't disqualify yourself before you try to go after a job. To me, I read that as, I always tell people too, and I've heard somebody say this, don't boo yourself off the stage before you get up there.
Absolutely. Most people, they look at a job description, and if the company is looking for 10 skills or qualifications, and if they only have 5 or 6, they'll say, well, I'm not going to apply. There's no way that company is going to contact me. There's no way I'm going to get hired. So I'm going to remove myself from this process. And I always say to them, you're crazy, because here's a little secret. Job requirements and qualifications, even if they say required, they're really preferred. And that's why if you even have some of the qualifications, you've got to apply, you've got to put your name forward, because you could be the most qualified person, but if you remove yourself from the process, you'll never know if you can get that job. So you should always let the company disqualify you, never disqualify yourself. And I can give you a real-time, real-world example. I'm currently recruiting for a position. The company wants someone with a bachelor's degree and 5 years of work experience. I found somebody with a bachelor's degree and 2 years of experience. I sent that candidate along. I recommended them. The company's interviewing that person next week. So again, right, she didn't take herself out of the interview process, right? She put her name forward, and the company's going to interview her.
And coming back to that, so you've sent this candidate's resume along to the company you're recruiting for. Talk about the recruitment process, right, that you do for companies. And what are your clients saying? Are they telling you, Bill, we're just not finding the right people, right? What does it look like from a business standpoint? Because they're hiring you to find the people.
Businesses generally, most businesses, what they do is they post their open positions on online job boards, and they sit back and wait to see who applies. And that's a terrible strategy, because most people are not active job seekers. Most people are not on job boards all day long. Most people are passive job seekers, meaning they might be happy at work, but they're not on job boards. But if you put a job opportunity in front of them, they're going to look at it. They'll consider it. So companies aren't really doing that. They're just posting jobs online and being, just waiting to see what happens. Whereas when they hire me, I go out and I contact people one-on-one. I put the opportunity in front of them. It could be 60 people, it could be 100 people, but I get it in front of qualified people who don't even know this job exists because they're not on job boards all day long.
Yeah, and that's the mistake then businesses make, thinking, oh, if I post it online, whether it's LinkedIn, Indeed, or another platform, right? They will, if I post it, they will come. Well, that's not the case.
So then, exactly. So companies then, they're only interviewing people who apply for their jobs. They're not interviewing all these other great qualified people who just don't even know about it. So that's where I could add value for a company in the recruiting process.
Let's talk about just resumes in general, right? And cover letters. Like I think back in the day when I was applying and, after my first television gig and I was looking to move on, this was back in 2005, I would send out the hard resumes and the cover letters printed out. So in this digital age, do they still matter? Do they still carry weight, or has it changed? Do you email your cover letter now? Like what are your pro tips?
Yep. I think 99% of companies say apply online, email us your resume. So everyone's been told to do that. So that's what everybody does. And that's where there's the opportunity to, again, do the opposite of what everybody else is doing and submit a hard copy of your resume and cover letter. And here's my recommendation or hack for people. Take your resume and cover letter, put it in a manila envelope, address it to the hiring manager, and in the bottom left-hand corner, put confidential on it so that it's going to make its way to the hiring manager unopened, because most people aren't going to open confidential mail. And hiring managers not getting paper resumes are probably going to stop and say,
this person wants to work here.
Yeah, they're resourceful.
Wow.
They found out my name. They found out my address. Let me give this a looking over. Let me spend 2 minutes looking at this resume. While everyone else is applying online, you're standing out by doing something different.
So you should still apply online, but then also send the paper.
Yep, do both.
You know what irks me about these online application processes, right? For as tech savvy as companies are, you go in, you upload your resume, and then it jacks it all up in the system, and you got to go clean it up and do it twice. How have we not figured that out? That's a sidebar. I'm just curious.
That's a great question. It's frustrating for all job seekers because you send in your resume.
And you're like, my resume looks good.
And then you still need to basically fill out an application. Yeah. The same information.
And you're like, let me redo the resume on your online portal because it's so bad and it doesn't scan your resume right. And you're like, oh my gosh, just look at the real thing.
Right. And then what happens is companies aren't even getting back to people to tell them that they haven't been selected. So there's a lot of things happening in the job search process that frustrates both parties.
All right. So in this area alone, I want to drill down where you're based, northeastern Pennsylvania. Yeah. You sometimes hear from people, there aren't enough jobs. I mean, you clearly said the jobs are out there, but what are the hottest jobs? Or if somebody's seeing this and thinking of college, the next step, because even the college game has changed, right? Some people are going to trade schools more, maybe not wanting all that college debt. So where can I be successful in 10 years if I'm graduating high school? What should I be focused on?
If you're in northeastern PA, there are tons of jobs in healthcare, in education, in logistics, in the nonprofit sector, in manufacturing, and there's even a lot of technology jobs. I have clients that are startup technology companies, and a lot of people don't know this, but we have a large technology sector here. So these jobs exist, but again, you're not always going to find these jobs online. It takes networking to do so.
And we came back and we talked about the resumes, right? You still got to upload it, but you can also mail it confidentially. Mm-hmm. What are your resume tips? How long? Sometimes I see people's resume and it's there used to be roles, 1 page. And then some people, it's 3 to 7, especially if you're in academia. It's insane, right? Yeah. So what are your tips? Because nobody wants to read anymore, I feel.
Resumes, this is the biggest pitfall for job seekers and applicants. Most resumes are really bad. And this is the number one tip I have for people. The resume is a marketing document, not a biography.
Oh, that's good. The resume is a marketing document, not a biography.
Most people want to put their entire professional life on a resume, and all you should be putting on there is information that is going to help get you the interview. What's relevant to the person reading your resume.
So should you change your resume for every job you apply to?
Absolutely.
Get out. That's a lot of work.
So
that's why they hire pros like you.
It needs to be targeted to the job in question, no more than 2 pages in length. And another big pitfall is the readability, the structure. How does it look? Is it easy to read? Most people's resumes are not easy to read. And here's another fun fact. People read resumes for about 7 seconds on average.
That's it.
That's it. So they're quickly glancing at it for keywords, job titles, phrases, skills. 7 seconds. So I want people to look at their resume and say, if someone were to spend 7 seconds on this, does anything on here pop? Does anything on here stand out? Does this truly sell me? Can I catch the attention of the hiring manager in 7 seconds?
I was blown away, and you mentioned about updating your resume for the job you want, right? Instead of just lobbing it out to anyone. And I remember from a family standpoint, my mom hired you because her resume, she's in her 60s and, she has so much experience, but she was exploring some other potential consulting gigs. And you helped her drill down on it, and I was blown away by it. But like when I looked at it and saw where she was applying, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I worked at this place, I would hire you. That's what I think a mistake that people make. And I've done it. Let me send out the same resume to all these different people, but you have to make it specific for the job you're applying for.
Absolutely, because I think what happens is, companies, businesses, recruiters, they get resumes and they say, why is this person applying here? It doesn't make sense. Their professional summary statement, the story that they're telling me on their resume, it doesn't make sense for the job they're applying for. So you need a powerful professional summary statement. Your story on your resume has to make sense. Again, are you marketing yourself for the job that you want? Most people aren't.
And let's talk about, we looked at it from the employee standpoint, right? And before I get to what businesses can do to improve the work-life culture balance, because that's still something that so many people pay attention to, especially after COVID, right? COVID happened and people are like, I just want to work remote or I want to be hybrid, right? And some companies are like, yay, and others are like, no, everybody in the office 5 days a week. Right. I want to come back because the one difficult thing that I think people struggle with, and I went through, right? When you're negotiating a contract, people hate haggling over money. You're talking about money. What are your best negotiation tips? So say you're at a company and you're killing it. Maybe you're doing 10 times the work of one of your colleagues. Best way to ask for a raise without going in there and saying, I want more money. How do you do it?
You need to provide justification for the value you're providing.
Before the meeting, clearly.
Before the meeting.
Yeah.
Well, you need to go into that meeting with data. And there's a lot of companies, workforce development agencies that produce salary information. You could reach out to people via LinkedIn, people who are similarly situated to you at other companies. Find out what they're making, right? So you need to go in and say, for the work that I'm doing, I believe that I'm worth this much. And here's the reason why, right? You need to go in with accomplishments and show them. This is how I've added value to this company. I've helped the company save money. I've grown revenues. Whatever the case may be, you need to go in with data. That's going to help make the case for you, not just going in and say, I want $5,000 more. Go in with data that shows them how valuable you are and how much money you're helping make the company.
All right. So this is going to be a little taboo here. Should you talk about, or with any of your colleagues, or try to do some digging to find out what they're making so to make sure you're being compensated? And here's why I ask. I was on social media, and Sherry Shepherd, who has her own talk show now, right? Sherry Shepherd used to be on The View. She publicly said in multiple clips, right, when she took her first job on The View before she had a talk show back in the day, Rosie O'Donnell said, here's what everybody's making at The View on the air. Here's what I'm making. I have a car. I have this. I have that. And then that helped somebody like Sherry. It was like women looking out for women. Here's how much you should ask to make, just so you know what everybody on the panel's making. Yep. All right. So that's in like show business. What are your thoughts about that in the workplace?
I think you need to be focused on, again, similarly situated people. So if you're in the accounting department and there's multiple staff accountants, yeah, you want to know what the other staff accountants are making, obviously. But if you're the only one at that company, it doesn't really help to know what the receptionist is making, right? So you want to find out what other staff accountants are making in your industry, in your local labor market.
So reach out to them on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
And just ask people.
Absolutely. Say, hey, I'm looking for a promotion. I'm looking to ask for more money at work. Could you just give me a salary range of what you or people you know in your position are making? Most people are probably going to give you a range, even if it's not a specific number. They're going to help you.
That's huge, yeah. Absolutely. And that's what I was amazed. LinkedIn, people want to help people out.
They do.
They want to have Zooms. They want to chat.
Yeah.
Businesses, let's talk about that really quick, because if you're trying to hire employees, right, and you want the rock star candidates, what do businesses need to be doing with the work culture?
Yeah. There's a number of things. I think what people are looking for is a degree of autonomy at work. They want to be able to see the impact of their work. They want to know that there's going to be professional development and career development opportunities available, so training and development opportunities. They want to know that there's going to be mentor opportunities at work. They want to know that there's work or there's room for advancement at work too, right? So those are some of the things. But what I would also say is people, they want to be heard. They need someone to listen to them. So, conversations can be very therapeutic. So if you're a leader, a supervisor, a manager, you should be having regular conversations with your employees and asking them how they're doing. What do you need from me to help you be successful? Because I'm of the opinion that the leader works for the employees don't work for the leader.
Ooh, wait, say that again. That's big.
The leader works for the employees don't work for the leader. So when the leader has that mindset, they say, these 10 people, I work for them. So what could I do? What could I give them so that they're more successful? Yeah. And when you approach employees like that, they're going to appreciate your efforts.
And the last thing is, I guess, team building stuff, right? I see smaller companies do that. We're trying to do that here. How do we get better at that? What does that look like?
I think rather than companies saying, these are the things that we're going to do, they should be asking people, number one, do you want to do things at work or outside of work together, right? And if they don't, maybe there's a problem there. But if they do, get their opinion, get their feedback, right? Is it going bowling? Is it going for some outdoor adventure? But find out what they want to do together as a team to sort of come together and closer, maybe get to know each other a little bit more personally.
I think I'm always amazed, by the way, when companies will make like $1 gazillion for the year and then they're like, here's a slice of pizza.
Yeah. Yeah, find out what the employees want to do, right? Yeah. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you want them leaving work happy.
Yeah.
So you want to structure your jobs in your work culture and environment where people could be engaged and happy and successful. You never want someone walking out the door unhappy because they're not going to be around very long.
Final thoughts. Anything I didn't ask you want to tackle? Even with the new generation come out, the Gen Zers. Do you see a difference with obviously the Gen Z versus the baby boomers?
I think two things I want to hit upon. Number one is it's important for everybody to network. Opportunities come through networking. You find out about opportunities you otherwise wouldn't know about. Networking is just relationship building, and everybody needs and wants to build relationships. But for the individual, for the job seeker, every job is available. Every job is available. It's up to you to let your target employer know that you want to work for them in what job, because that marketing manager position you're interested in, maybe the current marketing manager has already given her 2 weeks notice, is leaving anyway. Or maybe she's an underperformer and is on the way out. That job could be available for the right person. It's up to you to let your target company know that you want to work for them and what job you want to do.
So almost being proactive, not reactive. Being proactive to go after the job you want and not reactive like, oh, I just saw this posting, now I'll apply.
100%. I give that advice to my clients all the time.
And before I let you go, people, if they need career mentorship, help with their resume, their LinkedIn, the auditing, all that stuff that you do on like LinkedIn and great stuff, how do people connect with you?
Sure. On social media, you can go to the Bill Leonard, and my website is leonardworkforcesolutions.com.
All right, dude, always like eye-opening. You are so dialed into everything all the time. And again, I'm always forever grateful because you were such a great career mentor to me, and you still are when I'm dealing with some stuff.
Well, I appreciate your friendship and collaboration, Ryan.
You're the man, Bill Leonard, Leonard Workforce Solutions, the career matchmaker. Appreciate your time and appreciate you joining another edition of The Ryan Leckey Show. See you soon.